Bryce Eddy here. Most of you know I'm an aggressive high-energy guy, a 4th-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and between bodybuilding and my high-intensity lifting sessions, I still train like I'm 25. You don't need to be a maniac like me to have painful, stiff joints, but if you do, Joint Complex by Nation Health MD can help. I'm a big believer in this stuff. It doesn't matter if you're struggling with aches or stiffness in your knees, hips, or back, Joint Complex contains natural ingredients that promote joint comfort and mobility. It features high-quality turmeric and boswellia to support a healthy inflammatory response. It contains natural eggshell membrane, which promotes strong and supple joint cartilage. Every bottle of Joint Complex is manufactured here in America, so you know you're getting the best quality for your money. Right now, you can try Joint Complex risk-free and save 35% on your order. Go to nationhealthmd.com and enter discount code BRYCE at checkout. That's nationhealthmd.com and discount code BRYCE to get 35% off your order of Joint Complex today. Welcome to the Bryce Eddy Show. So, hey, today my guest is a return regular, Sam Anthony from YourNews. He and I are going to actually talk about the news today. My brother from another mother, Siaka Massaquoi, is on a little show hiatus while he is on location doing some super secret filming and a new movie coming out, which at some point he'll be able to announce. But in his stead, I've got Sam Anthony on. So, Sam, hey, for those in the audience that do not know you, talk a little bit about your efforts at YourNews and what you're doing there, because I love that project. And we've talked about it a couple of times in the past, but refresh everybody what you're up to and why they should pay attention.
Our domain is yournews.com. We are a hyper-local news content distribution platform. Just think of us as the local newspaper in every city in the United States. We have massive scale. We are an aggregator of information, and then we have a monetization model for news reporters. And Bryce, as I just got through telling you, we have over 5,700 news reporters and growing daily. So wow. That's what you hear about, James O'Keefe. I love him. I mean, he's got investigative journalists. I have 5,700 of them.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I love it. How do people reach it? How do people who are out there doing the good work of being a citizen journalist or a regular journalist, how do they get on? Describe that process a little bit.
For people out there that want to be a journalist and be monetized, just like people are on YouTube, you would go to yournews.com. Make sure you're in your city. You'll see it at the top. If you don't see the city name, change your location and put your zip code in. But then go to the bottom and click Become a Citizen Journalist. There's a couple videos you could watch that are really short. If you like what you hear, there's an application you fill out. Once you get approved, you'll get an email with instructions on how to use your dashboard. And you are a news reporter, and you could do local news, you could do state news, national, you could do restaurant reviews, you could be a theater critic, movie reviews, opinions, commentary, you name it. It's anything you want.
I love it. No, I appreciate the good work. And for people who are unfamiliar with it too, I mean, you get all the news. So it's oriented towards local stuff. If your city's not in there, of course, it's going to default to, some of the bigger stories in your state, bigger stories on a national basis. So it's not as if you're missing anything, but I love that idea that it's geared towards, I mean, you'll have some of the highlights from the little local little league kind of a thing and stuff that's important to people in their community, and then you'll have people that are uncovering stories and things like that are local, that are detrimental to what's going on in our fight, and people who are analyzing stuff that affects us on a big global or national basis. So I like it. I like the way it's organized, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for being here, or having me here, Bryce.
Yeah, well, like I said at the start of the episode, I wanted to get your opinion, editorial commentary on some of the news that's happening today. What Siaka and I do is kind of hit some of these top news stories, and the only real top news story for us to talk about right now, I think, is our quick little war with Iran. And but I thought it was interesting because, people are comparing this to past interventions by the U.S. and the endless wars, and a lot of people are using this to batter Trump because, one of the mantras that we had in this Trump era is, hey, no new wars. Now, that wasn't that I'm opposed to war, or people who are saying that are generally in my camp opposed to war, because war is inevitable in the geopolitical world. So first, I'd love to get your take on Trump and war, and some of the angst that people are having, or some of the opposition and how they're framing this stuff.
Love to tell you, and keep in mind, this is my opinion because I've been thinking this thing through. I really didn't see this whole Iran thing coming. Of course, I didn't see the thing happening in Venezuela either. And next thing you know, Maduro's in New York. So here's my take on it, because I really have been thinking this through, and I'm thinking, why is he doing this stuff? And I'm 61 years old. I mean, since as far as I can remember, you've always had politicians telling you, Bryce, if I get in, I'm going to change this, and did you ever notice nothing ever gets done, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever notice that the evil people, the ones that Iran, we're going to destroy them, we're going to get rid of them. Nobody ever does a damn thing. You know what they do? They give them money, right?
Yeah.
And I look at it like this: Trump is, how old is he? 80 years old, right? He's
getting up there.
Yeah, he's up there. He's had a really good life. He's made billions of dollars, right? I think what he's looking at this as, how do I clean this up so that these problems don't exist anymore before, I check out? And maybe that's a bad word to use, but this is how I'm thinking. Why is he doing this? And so, when the protesters started protesting in Iran, Trump came out and said, don't kill anybody or we're going to intervene. I mean, he didn't use those words, but basically said, don't do it or, you got problems.
Right.
I never thought he was going to actually go in there, but I think this just kind of laid in his lap. Like, when you take out Maduro in Venezuela, you're talking about a drug lord, right? You're talking about a guy that has been, funneling, drugs into the United States. And this is how he makes his money. And strategically, it was a brilliant move to do, because now they're not selling any oil to China anymore. I mean, basically, we have, I shouldn't say control over it, but I would assume we have monster influence on where that oil's going, right?
Yeah, and it's I love what just to interject real quick here. I love what Rubio said in the press conference, and so I mean, what we're witnessing is truly some geopolitical genius. The Venezuela thing, put a different thought in everybody's head that Trump will take these kinds of decisive actions. We have incredible technology. Pete Hegseth said in his press conference, this is not 2003, right? Our technology is very different. We are able to go in and do things that no army or military has ever done before. And it's really incredible what we're able to accomplish very quickly. What people, and I think this is a legitimate fear for people to have, that we're going to be stuck in a quagmire and endless war, things like that. But what you got caught up in, and a lot of people are caught up in, is what we experienced under guys like Obama, where this is the red line, go no further. And then, of course, everybody went further, and there was really little or no action. And so there's the two sides of that. There's feed the war machine, go forever, play these games, send our troops in, allow these quagmires to exist, go on and on and on in perpetuity, or do nothing and let these evil regimes, murder their innocent people. And Iran is at a unique moment in time, in that, there was this groundswell of legitimate protesters and people that are tired of the religious Islamic oppression that has been occurring and existing there. And Trump noticed the people were crying out for our help. They're there celebrating the downfall of this regime. And you can't please people. you right now you can't please people on both sides, but I think that we have to have adults return to the world of politics again and understand that there are things that we need to do. And if you're a Christian kid like I am, you do understand that there is a time for peace and there is a time for war, and us being willing to wage war keeps the world at relative peace. And it is our strength and the strength of a you know, big, strong military that's, run by good people or better people than everybody else, that's going to keep us in a safe place.
I agree. And also, name one good thing that comes out of Iran and that regime. I mean, nothing. It's they've always been a problem. I mean, I was on a show the other day with Patriot Mike, and he's pretty informed on all this stuff. And he told me, Sam, that's a central location for money laundering. I mean, that's where everything
Oh,
is going.
and bot farms. I mean,
I'm sure it is.
a little noticed news story during the time that we had shut down their power is the entire group of Scottish rabble rousers online disappeared, and they're the ones that are destabilizing the Brits a little bit and the British Empire. That they were all of a sudden disappeared, and it's because most of those bots were bot farms in Iran, which actually has pretty good um, you know, computer technology. They've invested a lot in that. They've got a good university system, and they have bot farms that are running that are stirring up unrest in Western countries. And
There you
so when
go.
all of a sudden all the Scottish bots disappeared, you realize, oh wait, no, they were just all Iranian posers. And so there's so much of that that's gone on. They are the antagonists in the Middle East and a barrier to settling things down there.
That's exactly my point. I think what he's doing here is he's eliminating all the rogue problems, right? And he's going after all the NGOs. He's following all the money. And he's basically, if you want to drain the swamp, you got to get rid of all the money. Once all the money's gone, the swamp leaves, right? They just go somewhere else. This is why I say the best thing to do in Washington is just make it so Washington can't spend a nickel. That you
Yeah.
can't, it doesn't matter what the cause is. You can't give a nickel to it. Everyone would leave because there was no money left. I'm a bank robber. If there's no bank, what do? I got to go where the banks are. That's all these people are. So I think strategically Trump did it because he had the opportunity to clean up a rogue regime, because this thing has been there for the last 50 years and it's been a problem. And I think it just landed in his lap. And at the end of the day, you got to look at how all this is going to lay out 20, 30 years from now, Bryce. And people are going to be it's either going to be a bad move or a good move. And I just can't imagine it being bad.
Well, I mean, okay, here's how it would be a bad move. It would be a bad move if we don't decisively and quickly end it, which, Trump is already announced that it's, pretty well over. And I do believe that that is the case. We have completely destroyed their Air Force. We've completely destroyed their Navy. We've cut off a lot of their monetary supply. We've destroyed the IRGC's oil reserves and fields. So, and that's where they were getting a lot of their cash to support the regime. We have essentially knocked down every head that's popped up. So as soon as they announce a new leader, we've killed them. In their big meeting of all of their, Islamic, leadership and everybody that was there. As soon as they were all meeting together, we killed them all. And that's what you need to do. You need to kill these evil leaders and be done with it. And so we've done a great job there. As soon as, and the markets are very interesting, right? But as soon as Trump comes out and says, "Hey, it's pretty much over," I expect it to be over very soon. And of course, he talks to kids like they're in the back seat saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Soon, kids, shut up, knock it off." I mean, that's the quality of some of our journalists these days. So so he announces, "Hey, very soon," and the market rebounds at a very spectacular level, and then all of a sudden oil starts looking really, really good. So
we're seeing this happen. If you follow my show, I talk about a lot of what people aren't willing to talk about, and that is the Islamic influence right now, and what's happening kind of in the West. And I'd love to get your thoughts if you're comfortable talking about it, because not everybody is. But we are at war and have been at war in the West with Islam, and we have been at war throughout. I mean, going back to the Barbary pirates, what their philosophy, and yes, there are peaceful Muslim neighbors, and there's people that live in our neighborhoods that aren't doing egregious things, but their core orthodoxy is incompatible with the West. And I think that we're always going to be at that wrestling match unless we are so dominant. Do you have a thought there?
I, you know, I never would have thought it would happen. I mean, I know some Muslim people, and they're no threat to anybody, right? It's certainly the extreme Muslims, but like you said, they can't seem to adjust to other people's society. And then when you hear on the internet these people getting up and just basically saying, we're going to outbreed Americans and we're going to
Yeah.
eventually own and control this country. I mean, that being said, they got to go. That's my opinion. So we agree with you. You're not. So now we don't want you here anymore. But the problem with America is they always wait till after the fact, until it's too late, right? Case in point, Iran. Okay, for all these years, you could have eliminated these people a long time ago and been done with it, and it never happened. But you talked about it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and a little interesting, Bryce Eddy factoid. So I have an uncle who's Iranian who fled, him and his family in 1979 and came here, and he's a dear uncle. I love him so much. He's one of the funniest guys on earth, one of the hardest working guys on earth. Just an awesome person. And so we've talked about it, what it was like, because I'm always fascinated. And if you go and people who are online in front of a computer now who've never really seen any of this, Google pictures of what it was like pre revolution, before the religious hardliners came in, and you'll see it looked a lot like 1970s America. And of course it wasn't perfect, and the leaders at that time weren't perfect. We know that, but it was far more like a Western country because it was under a Persian influence and not an Islamic influence. It didn't have that religion or philosophy of hardliners dominating it. And so the people have been under this tremendous oppression. I mean, these are people who I have no idea how the LGBTQ crowd aligns themselves with them and aligns themselves against freeing these people, because they'd get thrown off of buildings there. But there's this tremendous oppression of women, tremendous oppression of alternative lifestyles and things like that you don't have here in the U.S. because we let your freak flag fly. We let you do pretty much what you want to do. And they do not. And yet there's this wild and weird commitment to all of these really destructive ideologies around the country, just simply because they hate conservatives and hate Trump.
It's exactly correct. I find that completely ridiculous, that these people that they're supporting would actually want to kill them.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes hand in hand with pretty much everything they do, not making any sense, Bryce.
All right, Bryce Eddy here. Hey, so you have seen the news. The world is in chaos. We have all kinds of geopolitical drama right now on the world stage, and we are indeed in a second Cold War. So I want to talk to you today about protecting your household's future, starting with your finances. The signs could not be clearer. Gold has surged past 44.50 an ounce, and silver is blowing past $80. That's a historic record for both of those. And the biggest names right now on Wall Street are predicting even more growth due to all of the economic events. Their price targets are climbing as high as 6,000 on gold, $100 on silver. On top of this, we're seeing more and more instability, and nations are trying to undermine America's influence and dollar dominance. That's why I've partnered with American Independence Gold. Buy gold, folks. This company is veteran owned and they give back, donating proceeds to Tunnel to Towers in honor of our first responders and heroes. And here's the opportunity for my listeners and supporters: you can receive up to $10,000 in free gold and silver credited to your account with qualifying purchases, of course. That's real physical gold and silver, tangible assets you can hold in your hands to defend your wealth. Don't wait until it's too late. Go to bryceeddygold.com. That's bryceeddygold.com, or call 888-670-7011. Again, that's 888-670-7011. Take action today. Protect your family, strengthen your future, because freedom and security are not handed to us. They are preserved and fought for by the choices we make. This is Bryce Eddy for American Independence Gold. Freedom isn't given, it's secured. Speaking of not making any sense, have you followed what's happening in New York and the reporting on that? And this might be good for a news guy. We have these terrorists, and truly terrorists, Islamic terrorists, throw some bombs at protesters against the immigration push that Mondami has opened up there. It was essentially an anti-Muslim rally, and what did they do to these peaceful protesters? Now, if the roles were reversed, and the news tried to make it sound like the roles were reversed, and it was our guys that planted some bombs, which is so utterly false. But we have these terrorists being terrorists there. What are your thoughts on how the news has handled that stuff?
Well, first of all, is anybody surprised, right? I mean, you put a Muslim extremist in as mayor of New York, and his backers have got his back. Who's surprised about this? And the liberal media is always going to make it look like this is, you've seen remember in Minneapolis when they were burning it down? This is a peaceful protest. Meanwhile, fires are going
peaceful
on.
Yet fiery.
So you just have to expect it. I mean, we live in a world which is centralized news. Don't think for a minute these people are actually really reporting. They're reading off a teleprompter. This is what they get paid to do, push an agenda. Yeah. So don't be surprised. The only thing you could know is tune it out, because they're not telling you the truth.
Well, yeah, and what's funny is, the terrorists are not uncomfortable telling you the truth, because they came right out and said what their motives were. And of course, the news trying to equivocate or pretend like it was something else fell apart pretty quickly. But it just goes to show the suicidal empathy, as it's being called today, on part of the left wing, and even a lot of conservatives, or so-called conservatives, have a real hard time calling evil where they see it, or saying that something is directly wrong. And again, look, I have tremendous compassion and kindness, and I find as a Christian that there are evangelical opportunities for us. I don't hate my Muslim neighbors, but we cannot let them gain a foothold or a majority like they're trying to do in all of Europe successfully. They have been, they're completely changing that culture. And it's okay to have Irish be in Ireland. It's okay for the French to be French. We do not want to allow that to happen here, because what their hardcore philosophies are completely incompatible with Western civilization.
Completely. No, I totally agree. I mean, you see what's happening in Europe. The last thing we want is that happening here. I think Europe is gone. I don't think it's ever coming back. That being said, we'll see what they do. But I saw a meme the other day, and it said, Muslim nations that are on board with the Iran thing, and it had, the United Arab Emirates, the Saudi Arabia, all the different, is the Islamic countries were on board, and then ones that weren't were, the United Kingdom, right? It was crazy. It's like they've become Arab countries. And
yeah. Well, I mean, all of those countries that are on board that are traditionally Islamic countries is because, they're kind of business and money first. Let's be honest. They want to have great economic power. It's not that they can't be radicalized or don't have things that are very much incompatible with us. but they're thinking about, keeping their economies going, keeping, I mean, Dubai wants, high level spenders to be coming there, on holiday. I mean, that's going to be pretty important. And, and they've got their rules and they've got their things that you got to abide by when you're traveling there. And but they're a distinctly different culture than ours, but they want to be economically viable, and they don't want to be pounded into dust or lose their oil revenue.
It's called a business. All right. They enjoy, flourishing with the money that they make from their business. And they're like, God, we don't want to screw this up. And then you have some nut job that's your neighbor that they all can't stand, that they just don't say a word. Okay. But now all of a sudden the United States comes in and says, okay, we had enough of you. Goodbye. And they're like, oh, good. Get rid of them.
So, I don't know how much you want to weigh in on this, but, one of my great concerns is, the wild and weird group of political commentators that are making everything about Israel. And I want to make one comment. Israel does not do things without our permission. And there's this big push to pretend that, we are Israel's lapdog, and it's simply not true. And we know this because they are continuously having to, clear everything with us. They are not the tail that wags our dog, but literally, I'm seeing right now people act or talk about the Iranian regime as being something that was created and propped up by Israel. And it's just the mind-boggling lengths that these anti-Jew folks are going to blame everything in the world on Israel. I mean, it is wild to me. Have you been following that crazy change?
I hear it. It's noise to me simply because, and I'm not a Middle East expert, and I know there's a lot of people that may not like the Jews. They may be anti-Jew, and they may wonder why we're over there. But the simple fact of the matter is they are there. They are our allies.
Mhm.
And I would highly doubt that the United States is a puppet to them simply because they don't exist without us.
They do not, and that is true. And they are our solid ally, as imperfect as they are. I mean, it's a secular government. What I'm hearing so much of is, it's interesting because people, as I was on Charlie Kirk's board. I mean, still technically am. I say was because they murdered the guy, but he. There's clips of him talking about the wickedness of left-wing Jews and what they're doing to destroy themselves, essentially, and what they're doing to destroy our culture. And what he's talking about is the left. He's talking about Jewish influences that happen to be left-wing, and it's no different than him talking about left-wing bad left-wing ideologies within the Christian community that are destroying Christendom. And he talked about that. It's plenty of examples, and they're using that to try to destroy TPUSA, destroy Charlie Kirk's legacy, suggest that he was murdered by Israel because of these views that he had, which was not true, because Dennis Prager has throughout his entire radio career said the exact same things about his own community, where there are ethnic Jews that are far left using Marxist tactics and, destroying the U.S. or destroying themselves and families and things like that, which exists. And you can call out simultaneously, you can call out the wickedness that exists in a government, and that there's plenty that exists in us. And if we call it out, we're not all of a sudden anti-American. You can call out terrible behavior that the secular government does of Israel if you want to. I've got no problem with that. And you can call out evil actors on the Jewish side. You can call out evil actors on the Christian side, or people who are purporting to, call themselves Christians or Jewish. And it is wild how many people are tracing every sin on this planet now and anything that has ever gone wrong to the Jewish people. And it's disgusting, but it's a wild thing to witness.
I've been witnessing it, and I don't say anything because I listen and I go, oh my god, everything's the Jews' fault. It's all about them, I mean, and I have, I run a platform, so I have almost 6,000 content creators, and everybody runs in their own direction with their own views, and some of the stuff I agree with, some of the stuff I don't, but that's what free speech is all about.
Amen.
I my personal take on it is, when you're dealing with Charlie Kirk, they said that was an internal thing and the people there killed him. And I didn't do any investigation in this. I just am wondering why. Okay.
Yeah.
Like what would be the upside,
There was none. I mean, there simply was none. And you can go person by person in the leadership of TPUSA. And again, these are people that I know personally, and I have obviously an inside track to this stuff. And folks that folks were made powerful, popular, and also financially viable by Charlie Kirk and his activities. I mean, they built a big organization off of Charlie and his work and everything else. And there are guys like Andrew Colvett that helped Charlie propel him to, the heights of political, commentary on his podcast and on the radio. And he became the #1 conservative, radio personality. And Andrew was, enjoying the blessings of that. To suggest that Andrew, for whatever, including money, which there's no evidence of, would have been complicit in Charlie's death was absolutely not just disgusting, but illogical and makes no sense. But again, not many people are actually investigating any of this. You've got the, Candace Owens of the world and folks like that are just throwing as much crap against the wall to see what can stick and confusing people and using them as useful idiots out there in order to get clicks. And there's so much of that that's going on. I think it's coming to its own sort of demise because it's getting more and more ludicrous as you do more and more of it. But it's a really unfortunate to witness.
Bryce, I don't think they're doing it for clicks. I think they really believe it. I think whatever rabbit hole they're on, they're uncovering stuff and they're connecting their own dots and they believe it. And
I think there are those people, truly. Yeah. But knowing Candace and people like that and seeing the pattern of behavior over time, and there's a few people that are, jumping on her train for clicks and for money. There's a lot of evidence and a lot of, again, just personal, character history and patterns of behavior that suggest that, they're doing this to springboard ahead. They're doing this to engage audience and get those clicks and those eyeballs and be the center of attention. But then I do believe that there's a lot of people, like you're saying, that are caught up in it. And a lot of it's the, put ice cubes in their white wine crowd that are, really into the true crime stuff. And that's wild to witness.
I agree. I mean, I don't even know what to say to this one. I mean, I'm hearing that, it was Israel that killed Charlie Kirk, right? And the guy with the, what caliber gun did he have? It was
a 30-06,
right? So that didn't kill him. And this is the one thing I can't get past. Charlie Kirk was friends with Dan Bongino. He was friends with Patel, Cash Patel. I mean, these guys liked him. They knew him. Yeah. Do you really think they would cover it up? Especially, forget Cash, Dan Bongino. You really think that guy's going to cover it up? He would blow a gasket. So I just have a hard time believing it.
Well, and you have to believe a really crazy narrative to believe that they wouldn't. And look, all things on this earth are possible. There's crazier things that have happened. I'm not uncomfortable in asking questions. I'm not uncomfortable in looking at anomalies and looking at things that don't make sense. I think we should do that stuff, but you have to first seriously dismantle the evidence that we do have against this kid that I do think was involved in a conspiracy, but I don't think it was the conspiracy that, reached the levels that they are suggesting. I think there was he confessed in advance to people. He said he was going to do what he did to people. He confessed to 5 different audiences. And I'm not saying it all adds up perfectly, but a lot of that information is being drowned out. Like a lot of the stuff that should be disproven first is being drowned out by I mean, I think the latest that Candace is saying is it was the Masons that killed Charlie. I mean, that's something that she put on her show a night or two ago. I mean, it so far she's left no one innocent in this. I think every single group of people had murdered him according to her show at some point, and she doesn't actually ever bring any real evidence. She just says inside sources and anonymous high up people, and never really points to anybody, but the audience laps it up.
I guess they do. I don't know. I don't have time to be watching all the shows, but I just, to me, it's just far fetched. And it's not like I discount anything, because I know some people that are out there investigating this stuff, and you really can't say anything if you weren't out there doing the work, right? Somebody else is up. But I'd really like to see hard proof, because it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, his wife just doesn't seem like a killer to me. She doesn't seem like anybody that's, that's been groomed for this. I mean,
I spent a lot of time with her in, green rooms as Charlie was, gaining his momentum and steam, and, the rocket ship that became TPUSA in the last couple of years. I got to drive them around to events. I got to listen to Charlie, keeping everybody in line on the phone, including with President Trump and others. And, Charlie was masterful at all that stuff. And Erica was smart and, in love with him. I got to go to dinner with them several times and, see them interact on a deep and private basis, by the way, because, when you're driving them around, you get to see sort of a side that's invisible to others as they're chit-chatting and doing their thing. You tend to disappear, as you're, serving them in that capacity. And they were, very much in love, and Charlie loved his kids. And yes, I got to see pictures of him with his kids, and I got to see his kids, and I got to see the baby pictures on the days that they were born. And, I mean, wonderful family, wonderful guy. He was one of one, and it's sad to see him gone, and I still grieve it every day.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think it was horrible. It's just amazing what the left will do to silence somebody. I mean, my personal opinion is fight fire with fire. Somehow nobody wants to do that. So
yeah, well, I agree with you on that. Trump wants to do it, which is why he's taking the literal actions of fighting fire with fire right now, and getting rid of evil regimes. Speaking of which, the last little one I want to hit, because this is a very good sign of what's happening there. He's petitioning right now and putting pressure on the Australia and the prime minister there to give the soccer team, the women's soccer team, asylum, because they are not down with the current regime in Iran, and afraid because they were, essentially protesting by not singing the anthem. And people who are hardliners in Iran, said that they, need to be killed first when they come back. So, I mean, shoot, how more clear is that they need asylum? Those are the asylum seekers we need to protect.
No question about it. I mean, first of all, I don't know how they're getting back. There ain't no planes landing in Iran. Right?
Not right now.
So, not right now. So, I mean, why wouldn't somebody give them asylum? And I saw Trump said, look, if you don't want them, I'll take them. Bring them here.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. Why would you send somebody to their death?
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. Any last news stories or anything? It doesn't have to be on this topic that you've been following or interested in, or anything you want to hit before we tell everybody where to go to enjoy your content?
Sure. So here's what I do want to know. You think that they're going to pass the SAVE Act?
Oh gosh, you know what, man, that one is so personally important to me and so many people in my audience. I mean, well, and if you just look at the polling, it's important to everybody. I mean, on every side of the aisle, people understand that, yes, you can get an ID, and IDs are acceptable. And I'm willing to say it. If you are incapable of getting an ID, you should not be voting in any of our elections, because there is something wrong with you. That is the lowest bar on the planet to pass. certainly the lowest bar to pass here in the United States to engage in politics here and, tick the boxes you want to tick. But that's why the far left and the current Democrat Party platform is so against it, because they want the confusion and chaos, and all of the people that they brought in that they want to give citizenship or give the right to vote, even if they're illegal aliens. All those people and all that effort, would have been wasted for them. But the average human being here, the average citizen, is overwhelmingly for it. I do not know why anyone on our side would be unwilling to go to the mattresses, as the mobsters used to say, to get that thing passed, including getting rid of that filibuster. I'm not confident in our leadership. I'm not confident in our side. I have not been, in forever. But I'm praying every day for that one, because that will solve a lot of our problems.
Bryce, conservatives, liberals, Republicans, Democrats, majority both want it, right? Makes
Every minority,
sense, right?
Every single minority that they're saying can't possibly be getting IDs.
But every single Democrat doesn't want it, which means they don't represent their constituents. Number
Correct.
one. Then we have a gentleman by the name of John Thune, who's now saying, well, I'm not sure and whatever. Okay, so let me explain how this works, because I know exactly how it works. We have literally the best Congress money can buy. The only reason somebody would not vote for it is because somebody plopped a ton of money in their lap and said, here's your vote. What dollar amount buys it? And that's the system we have, and that has got to go.
Okay? I could not agree more.
You can't be making votes based on how much you get. And all these people rigged the whole system. They're all lawyers, so they can't go to jail. Oh, well, I just got a campaign contribution for $20 million. For my next campaign that I might not run, which means I get all the money. That's all this is. The whole thing is about money. It needs to be burned down. That's why I said, if you eliminate all the money, make it so if you don't balance the budget, it's life in prison without the ability of parole.
Yeah, well, I love what Trump's doing and putting the pressure that he can put. He's announced that he won't pass any legislation, or assign any new legislation until the SAVE Act is passed. And I think that, we've witnessed some great upsets happen in this little primary season, including getting rid of completely owned shills like Dan Crenshaw, which deserved to lose his primary. I mean, and this is a guy that I met and spent time with and had high hopes for early on in the day. This is a guy that TPUSA, put resources into, and put staffers on his team and really help this guy win, because again, hey, Navy SEAL, war hero, all those sort of things. That could be a powerful guy, but then you watched him get completely swallowed up with the machine and do the bidding of his masters. And you saw the guy, be an angry, problem. Well, you saw him get kicked out, and there's other of those stories around the country. And again, I witnessed that guy get corrupted and owned over time. And it was sad, because I had a great time, drinking whiskey with him late at night and getting to know the guy. But, he was susceptible. And he got bought pretty quick, and that's why next to Nancy Pelosi, he had the best stock picking of anybody else.
Bryce, did you see Jasmine Crockett saying that the Republican? I mean, this is a woman who voted against voter integrity, right, and making sure we have fair and safe elections, is now saying on the Democratic primary that Republicans were the ones that stole the election. It was election fraud. And I'm thinking to myself, you voted for this, number one. Number two, there was no Republicans involved with it. And if there was cheating, good for him.
Yeah. No,
you got exactly what you deserved.
No kidding. Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. We got, I think it's Tony Gonzalez also in Texas that, Brandon Herrera's kicking his butt. And, I love to see these, rhino types and these far lefters. We're seeing a snap back to a more middle of the road, or at least on our side, I think it's getting true to the values that we expect these folks to have when we put them in office. And so, that's where I have tremendous optimism, and, even amidst some of the darkness that we're seeing.
I think it's all going to work itself out. It's just amazing the crap you got to go through. And
Yeah.
by the way, Bryce, 100% of it is for money. That's all it is. Money and power. That's all these
Oh,
people
for sure.
want. If you eliminate all the money out of Washington, you don't get paid. You have to balance the budget, and you can't spend a nickel on anything ever. It all goes to nonprofits, and those nonprofits you're not going to be part of. And those nonprofits have to raise money from private individuals. Oh, and by the way, there's no taxes, no income tax on anything. It's all done through tariffs. So basically, you're just accountants balancing the budget. You have to make sure everything's balanced and pass laws. Everybody would leave. Everybody would leave.
I think you and I could solve a lot of problems by pulling some of those levers.
It's the easiest problem in the world to solve. Eliminate the money. Then they'll have to go to blue states to run because they're going to want to steal the money there.
Yeah.
That's all it'll be. They're just on the national stage stealing, and then we got to hear these ridiculous things these people come up with. You ever notice, ever since you were 20 years old and you listen to politicians and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. And then 10 years later, it's how the hell does that work? And you keep going, and now we're 50 and now we're 60. We're still hearing the same stuff. It doesn't make any sense. And then you start to realize it's not supposed to.
Yeah, nothing ever changes.
They're just trying to throw us curveballs to try and figure out a way to make it make sense. I mean, look at John Thune. How in the hell are you going to convince me that voter integrity is not important?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's wild. And, again, I love the heat that imbeciles who are just completely owned like him are getting. So,
Bryce, it's the mainstream media that's the problem.
Yes.
Okay? And I'm going to tell you that flat out right now. Everybody knows it. I mean, alternative media is the future, but it's the mainstream media that's still propping all this crap up, and they're still talking good about it. And they're making everything good evil. I mean, it's all ridiculous. I mean, how did we even get to transgenders, and how did we even get to mutilating kids? Where are we? How did this stuff even get on center stage? You know how many people are transgender in the United States, percentage wise? Because I don't, but it's probably less than 1%.
Oh yeah, it's far less than 1%, and all that stuff is exaggerated terribly. I mean, it's a gross thing, but yeah, we've allowed that to happen. And you're right, the media is complicit, which is why I'm excited what you're doing. And there's going to be this like jungle sustained chaotic craziness as some of that what you're doing and others are solidifying. But what I tell people is, given time, you see the truth bubble up. If enough people are talking, because there's enough small voices, there's enough people that are applying logic to things, you're going to have the crazy lunatics and the people who are self-interested. You're going to have the people that are coming up with all kinds of crazy conspiracy things. You're going to have a lot of that. But if you just pay attention, use your God-given discernment and watch, given a little bit of time and given enough voices, you will see the truth bubble up, and it's our job to sift through that and use what God's given us, logic and other tools, to sort through it. But we need a ton of voices, and we need transparency. We need true free speech, and we'll get to the right place.
No question about it. I mean, that's the good news is, I don't know if you know this, but the average age of people watching cable news is in their lower 70s, 72 or something like that. And nobody's following up behind. So I don't give that more than 5 years. It'll all be gone. Everything has moved to platforms, whether it's, Rumble or TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, because you have millions of people that, are driving billions of people, right? These content creators. And so, that's where we come in, because, our niche is local news. I mean, that's what I do, is local news. And, as we start expanding and growing, I mean, there's 20,000 cities, Bryce, in the United States. I'm guessing we'll probably end up with about 50 a city, which is 1 million freaking news reporters, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, that's just one country. I mean, we can expand out into other countries, which is the plan. But what I'm getting at is as that old one goes away, right now we live in a world of centralized news, right? Everybody's seen the Sinclair Broadcasting with the 50 TV saying the same thing at the same time, right?
Yeah.
It's all read off a teleprompter, all centralized from one guy sending it out. All that is like what we do is completely decentralized. That's the beauty of the internet.
Agreed.
And so we had the problems with our own government going to all the tech giants and censoring the conservative voice, which, oh my God, I would have never, if somebody would have told me that would have happened, I said, not in a million years. Wow. Okay. But now everybody has seen it. They all know what it is. And now this is what's giving birth, like with our platform. I mean, it's a completely decentralized platform with the ability for people to report local news, right? Because I don't care what it is.
Starts. You got to win your communities too, because we can't affect a lot of the stuff that's going on a national or international stage. We can report on it, and that's important. And people need to know what's happening so that they're informed at the local level as well. But where our power exists is at the local level and pressuring local powers. And the only way we can do that is by news sources like yours and having armies of citizen journalists. So how do we follow you again? How do people sign up? Please give me all those details.
Look, the domain is YourNews.com. If you're a reader, just log in, make sure you're in your city, and you could do national news or local news. We carry it all. Bryce, there's something I wanted to share with you before we got to go, because I know we have to go shortly. But I have news reporters that are all over the globe now. Okay. And they report on topics like, it doesn't matter. Like it's what's important to them. So I have somebody in Doha, DOHA, right? It's in like Qatar, Doha, Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you watch tennis or follow tennis. I don't really follow it, but tennis, the Doha was like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, and it was going on for like a month. These guys cover equestrian and they cover tennis. And so my coverage of the equestrian stuff going on in the Doha tennis was like exceptional.
I love that.
It was amazing. I'm like, oh my God. And I have a friend of mine I play golf with that, used to play in a club as a pro tennis, like he trained people and everything. And he's on my site going, your tennis stuff is amazing in Doha. I don't even know these people. I mean, they're just submitting the content, photos, videos, the whole 9 yards. So I think it's amazing. This for people like that are interested in content, we have everything and we keep expanding and growing. But if somebody's interested in being a citizen journalist, if you go to the bottom of the page and click become a citizen journalist, you could watch a couple short videos, decide if it's for you. I mean, you could be the next Nick Shirley, right? I mean, Nick Shirley never went to journalism school. He never worked for ABC, NBC, CNN, no local radio or TV stations or newspapers, yet broke the biggest story there was. So news reporting is not just people that went to journalism school. It's going to be your neighbor. It's going to be somebody that decides, that's already proactive in the community, that decides I'm going to the city council meeting. I'll write the damn story and I'm going to share that out with the people in the community.
Yeah, it's just people that are taking the time to pay attention and tell us what's happening. I mean, that's what's beautiful about it.
And for those of you who believe that, well, I don't know how to write good, have you ever used ChatGPT? All you do is put in the notes of write me an article using these bullet points. And once you get what you want, it does a phenomenal job. And here's the best part. It takes less than 10 seconds. That's how fast it is.
It is fast. And look, I want to encourage people not to lose their ability completely. Write things the best you can in your own words, put the notes in, do the discipline, because we're going to lose humanity to the robots if we don't. But it's an excellent tool. I'm going to do some fun posts later. I've been learning more and more about AI and been spending time on some of those things just for my own show purposes. And I've got some funny posts I'm going to put out, of things that AI did for me. But it's a really worthy tool. You must learn it. It's here to stay. It's going to grow and proliferate. Use the tool so you don't fall behind. But use it as a tool, not a crutch, because people, especially right now, can tell when you're, putting every single one of your texts and emails and everything else into ChatGPT. Just be yourself.
Yeah, but it is just a tool. Some people told me, oh, AI is going to take over no, it's not. It's never going to take over the news business. You need news reporters, boots on the ground, right? All it does is it makes your story more eloquent.
Well, and the people who learn it are going to be ahead of the people who don't. It's still going to require, and I might do a little quick post on this, because what I'm recognizing is the quality of its output is the quality of your input and the questions that you're asking it, and the things that, like in your case, what you're suggesting, what you're doing, that the better your inputs, the better the output. And so be competitive that way and you will win.
Yeah, no, he's exactly correct. That's how it works. It's just an amazing tool. And then the second thing we're doing is, I'll bring it up, the equity crowdfund we're doing, which is we're not going traditional route. I mean, to me, the reason we're in the mess we're in today is because of mainstream media.
That's exactly right.
And there's for those of you who don't know, there's actually 6 institutions that own and control all the narratives, right? So it's easier to control 6 people than it is to control 500. So what we did, we're doing something called a private placement, which is it's before you go public. So this would be like Silicon Valley raising capital for Facebook before they took it public, right? Or or any of those companies, those tech giants. But rather than go to institutional money, we decided to do the opposite. There's something called an equity crowdfund, which is owned by a brokerage firm. So it's a security, but when you do private placements, you have to be an accredited investor. And I'm sure you know that, Bryce, right?
Yeah.
So which basically rules out 99% of the population. 1% is accredited. What this allows is everybody to be able to participate. And the minimum you could spend is $200, but it allows everybody to buy stock. So just because somebody isn't accredited doesn't mean they don't have common sense. So we've been raising all the capital off of the little guys instead of the institutional money.
I love that. And I think that's important, because you're right. If you are doing, you are going to have some master if they're putting big money in. It's inevitable. They're going to have influence. I mean, that not to bring everything back to dear Charlie Kirk, but a lot of the battles and angst that people have highlighted with some of his frustrations with donors, and we had frustrations with donors from every group of people, but we had a ton of pressure all the time. And Charlie did a great job, telling people no and saying, you're giving and entrusting to me that I'm going to make good decisions on this stuff. And he really eliminated a lot of influence. But anytime you have people writing big checks, they're going to want to influence you. And so the more you can decentralize that, which is what you're doing, then you're going to get people who cannot dominate. And I think it's brilliant.
Bryce, could you imagine if I took money from BlackRock or Vanguard? Right?
Oh my gosh, you would you'd never do a story on anything that they ever owned that went against them. I mean, they pretty much own everything.
If you're a news organization that's supposed to be by the people for the people, right? Shouldn't the people own the product? Is the point? And so this is where people could actually become investors in this, and we'll get it to the point of public. I'm guesstimating by the time we hit about 50,000 news reporters, because that gives us a monster value. I mean, just an FYI to you, the marketplace has already determined what content creators are worth on platforms like mine, because mine would be considered like YouTube or Rumble. Right. So they're more of an influencer versus my mom, who has a Facebook page, which has a far less value. Content creators on platforms like Rumble or YouTube or YourNews, my content creators have influence. So when they post something like Mark Fincham, his content draws 250,000 people. That's who follow him, right? Yeah. So the bigger you get, and our reach last month was almost 1.5 million people. So the bigger you get, the more content creators you bring on. It's self-perpetuating, but everybody's worth between 10 and 12,000. So imagine this. Now we have room for 1 million in the United States. Imagine at 50,000, which we're not at yet, but at 50,000 people, you're talking $500 or $600 million.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing.
It's no different. Look at Rumble. I mean, Rumble, the highest market cap I seen was 4 billion. It bounces between 2 and 3 billion. That's 250,000 content creators. You're talking about 10 to 12,000 an individual. Yeah.
Yeah. That math makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. There's no difference. I have content creators do video. So so if somebody's interested in investing, go to the bottom of YourNews, click invest. You can read about it. If you want to make an investment, you can do it. We sold just under half of it. So we're just finishing this up. Then we'll start another one, but it'll be a much higher number.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you. Keep up the good work. Love watching this trajectory happen. Appreciate you. To God be the glory. And we are out. Thank you for being my guest today.
Oh, my pleasure, Bryce. Thanks for having me. Be happy to come on anytime you want.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Take care.
Weird subject here, but most of us who've lived a little life out there or live with beloved pets accumulate parasites. If you're struggling with gas, bloating, loose stools, or constipation, or if you often feel tired and weak, there's a good chance you might have a parasite. According to the CDC, millions of Americans are infected, but most of us are unaware. That's why folks are loving Paratarget by Nature's Blast. Paratarget contains a unique blend of natural ingredients that help kick those parasites to the curb. People who use it have reported better digestion and improved energy levels. Just one scoop mixed into your favorite room temperature or cold drink every day does the trick. You'll even get delicious recipes for a tropical smoothie and refreshing citrus sunrise mocktail. Try Paratarget for yourself and save 35% on your order today. Go to Nature's Blast store and enter discount code BRYCE at checkout. That's Nature's Blast store to get 35% off of Paratarget. Enter BRYCE, B-R-Y-C-E, at checkout.